Welcome to Changing the Game, where bold leaders, rule breakers, and trailblazers drop the playbook and share how they lead, win, and shake things up. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Jordan Duran. Today, I'm joined by Kate Madigan. Kate is the assistant GM for the New Jersey Devils, one of the few women to hold this role in the NHL and a force in a male-dominated space. She worked her way up in the organization from an entry-level scouting operations role, proving what's possible with persistence, networking, and a strong belief in yourself. Before breaking into the NHL, Kate ran track at Northeastern University, grew up as a competitive figure skater, and worked in public accounting at Deloitte. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on.
I'm so excited to have you on too. Excited to share your journey with our listeners, and just you have great energy, Kate. I feel like we've just already hit it off.
We're going for it.
We're doing it live today. So I'd love if you could kick us off and share a little bit about your background with the audience. So you grew up as a figure skater, and then you ran track in college. And then now you work in hockey.
All over the map.
Tell us how that came about.
Yeah. So very different. I'd say when you think about typical executives in sports, they either played, I clearly didn't play hockey. I ran track. I was a figure skater, but really grew up around the sport with my sister and my dad. He was a coach at Northeastern for a while. He was a scout for the Penguins and the Islanders. So my track is a little bit different. I think a lot of us are learning it's not very singular. There's ups and downs. So I definitely took a long route to get here. I started in public accounting, which is a little different, working at Deloitte. But for me, really started to love the game watching it when I was younger. I'd say 10, 11, 13. I was at games with my dad, always really enjoying it. But I didn't really see a path for myself as a woman in the sports industry. So I kind of just did what I thought was comfortable, right? Okay, I'll go into figure skating, which I loved. Ran track in college, which I loved. Went into accounting, but never really challenged myself to get out into what I wanted to do. But loved everything I did, but definitely a different path than most in sports. I'm surrounded by a lot of ex-players, ex-agents. So being a female is different, and then not playing the sport's a little different as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I actually didn't know that it's just an interesting perspective that you said, oh, I did what felt more comfortable at the time. And so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to know when that switched for you, because now it's obviously not out of your comfort zone. You work in the sport. So when did that change?
I would say I was 25. I always knew I wanted to get into sports, but it was kind of I want to be the president, right? I want to be a GM. It kind of seemed like a pipe dream. And at the time, it honestly was. There wasn't many women in the field. I wanted to get into sports at around 25. I was at Deloitte 2 years. I grew up in Boston, went to school in Boston, was living in Boston. I was kind of just is this my path? Am I challenging myself? I want to get into hockey. And I was talking to my mom. I was networking a bit. And it was kind of if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it later. I'm not going to do it when I have roots and I'm married, maybe with kids. You can, but it'd be a lot harder.
Right.
If I want to try, why don't I try? If I hate it, I can come back in a year. I'll always be able to get a job in accounting somewhere. So it was kind of a why not now moment. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's do it. Let's move to New Jersey. It wasn't that easy. Had to find a job and all of that stuff. But the believability, I was like, you know what? Let's see if I can do this. Let me at least try. If I can't, then I can't. But I can't say I didn't try.
Yeah, exactly. You can always go home. You can always fall back on what you studied. You can always fall back on that career. I love that you put yourself out there to actually try.
Yeah, it was, I'm very methodical type A. So it wasn't a lots of conversations. Should I do this? Should I not? My sister and I just bought a condo together. She's like, are you freaking kidding me? We just moved in. So I probably should have thought about it a little bit more. So there was some thought, but there was I wasn't sure. It was kind of that unease. Should I, shouldn't I? Started networking. And then when the job became open, I was like, okay, I have to. Now's the time.
Now's the time. We definitely jumped ahead to your career now, but I want to talk about the steps that you took to get there. You said you were really methodical type A. So when you were transitioning out of school, you went into public accounting. I guess let's start there. Walk us through that transition. How did you end up in accounting? And then let's connect the dots to to being a hockey GM?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us probably go through this is if you're going into school, you're 18, 19 years old, and it's like, declare a major. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I've had one core class. Like, how do I know what I like? But I knew I like, right? And you use advisors, you use your parents, your siblings, your friends. I knew I really liked numbers, and I knew I really liked analyzing. Like, that's where I was always strong. I was never the artsy type, for sure. I was never the life sciences. Like, numbers, math was my thing. And it was just like, there's always going to be a job in accounting. Like, it's a good field to go into. So it's kind of just like, okay, like, I feel like if you picked your major, your career at 22, 23, you'd probably be making a more educated decision. I'm very thankful that I did. I have a lot of great experiences that came out of Deloitte, but to be honest, it was just like you got to pick something. So you're just kind of like making an educated guess based on what you like. I could have gone into finance. Like, there's different routes, but accounting was kind of the one that like stuck out to me, that I was like, let's give it a whirl.
Yeah, so true. I think there's a little bit of parallels between our story, actually. I don't know if I actually told you this the first time we chatted, Kate, but I went to law school, and I do nothing with law. And so it's kind of that, what you just mentioned, where it's like, you have to pick something so early in your life where it's like, you don't really know what you're interested in, but let's just follow the path, where it's like, maybe the job market is reliable in that area at the time. You'll always have the opportunity there. So when you went into public accounting, when you got your job at Deloitte, was there that moment for you, or the feeling of like, still like, I want to do a little something different? Or what did that feel like? Was there any dissonance between your role?
I'd say like, I really love the teams I worked at Deloitte. Like, the people were great, which I know everyone thinks accountings are boring. We had a great time. But I think I always kind of was like, what's it like not being in an office, right? Like, I was always in that office space. I saw my dad in hockey, obviously worked his ass off, but like, you're watching practice, you're meeting advisors, going into meetings and stuff like that, versus like sitting at a desk 24/7. So I was kind of like, what does that look like? My sister is in marketing, so like, she's in a more creative field. So I always kind of like wondered. I loved my team though, and my group, and I really think wherever you are, the people make it. I think it was when I started taking the CPA, and I was like, I do not like this. Like, why am I doing this? And I think it kind of goes probably a little bit to how we were talking about when you went to law school. Like, you commit, and then you almost feel like, okay, I have to follow through.
Yep.
Like, I spent all this money and time getting a degree. Well, the next logical step would be to get a CPA. Like, why wouldn't I? I just spent all this time. And you never really think, like, do I want to do this, or it's what I should be doing? And I feel like I kind of had, like, I was studying my ass off, and I was like, not enjoying it. Passed some, failed some, passed some, like, back and forth. Was like, and I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this to myself? And my mom finally was like, you don't have to do this, but you almost feel like you're quitting, right? And the job ended up coming while I was still taking the test. So I think that's kind of like, it was a good transition time, that everything kind of happened in steps. But it's just interesting how you like pick something and feel like you have to commit to it. Like, and that's where it's okay to change.
Yes. It's
okay. The game in life and our own game.
100%. It's like, it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to pick a different path. I know it's tough when you've invested so much time, energy, and also finances into what you're studying. I felt that too. I never took the bar exam, because same thing. I went through 3 years of law school and thought, do I actually like doing this? Is this actually something that I can see myself being successful in long terms? Like, will I stick to it? And when I really thought about it, like, my gut was saying no. If I was questioning it that much at that time, the answer is probably no. So I guess, do you have advice for people that are maybe struggling with that? Like, I think I should be sticking to my degree, or they're afraid to pivot.
I would say, don't think about everything that you've like wasted. I've wasted my time. And I did that. I've wasted my energy. I've spent all this time at a company. I could have been working on my future. Like, when I look back at it, I'm a very everything happens for a reason person. And I'm like, I think I'm the person in the executive I am because of the time I spent at Deloitte. So like, be open to change, but don't think you didn't get anything out of your experiences. I'm sure like at law school and stuff like that, like, I learned how to talk to difficult clients at Deloitte, how to time manage, all those like transferable skills, EQ, that I'm like, okay, now I'm in hockey. I just wasted my time. And I'm like, no, I learned how to be a professional there, which carries over. So I feel like a lot of people don't want to make the change because they don't want to feel like they wasted. And it's like, this was just the first step. You learned X, Y, Z. There's certain things that came out of it, and now you're transitioning.
Yeah.
So I feel like just think of it as part of your journey instead of like two separate journeys.
That's so true. There's no wasted experience because it's just teaching you what you need to know in this next adventure, this next chapter. A lot of actually athletes and veterans that we work with here at Shift Group experience that same sort of like identity shift. Like they feel like they maybe wasted, not all of them. I don't want to speak for everybody, but some will say, I feel like I had all these skills from my sport or service that I now don't get to use. Which I don't think is true. Did you feel like you had some of that identity shift coming out of sport and going into your professional career?
Yes, I'd say mine was probably prioritizing like being an athlete. Like when you're so regimented, mine's a little different, but like you have to go to practice at this time, you have to lift at this time. Then when you get into the quote unquote real world, it's up to you. So I didn't make it a priority because I'm like, well, no one's telling me. Like I used to wake up at 5 a.m. and lift before practice at 7. Now it seems crazy to do it before work, right? But like I could do it if I want to. So it was kind of learning that like you almost had to force yourself. No one was holding yourself accountable. And that's kind of the same with everything, whether it's being an athlete, being a professional. Like once you kind of grow up, like you're holding yourself accountable. So I think learning that a little bit, transitioning out, as well as just like life. I can't eat what I used to because I'm not working out 3 to 4 hours a day. That would be nice.
Unfortunately, I wish.
Yeah, the cookies act a little different now. And also like the camaraderie changes. Like when you're in a sport with people for 2 to 3 hours, and then you all go your separate ways, like you have to put in effort to keep relationships where it might have been natural before because you're at practice sitting around shooting the shit. So there was just like little things you kind of had to learn. I didn't have a huge adjustment, but I would say just like making myself more accountable to things, whereas before I was probably indirectly having other people hold me accountable.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like keeping those same qualities, but learning how to do them independently.
Yeah.
Almost next chapter. Yeah. So you also mentioned that you got the job with the Devils while you were at Deloitte, but you have a strong reference to networking and it was very methodical. Can you walk us through how you landed that role? I mean, it's breaking into sports in general is tough.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I hate networking. It gives me like, I get red and uncomfortable even thinking about it. Like, who loves talking to people they don't know? And like the small stuff, like you're like, oh my God, this is so awkward. And it is. And it's okay. And just accept it. Like the first few minutes and then you ease into it. Even just getting to know you. Like it's so much easier now than it was last time we chatted. And so for me, it's okay that it's uncomfortable. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Mine was using the resources. I did not want to use my dad at all. Obviously, he had a ton of resources. I was like, I want to do this myself. I want to be independent. The reality is no one's going to give you a job, but like people are going to open doors. It's up to you to kick down the door, to break in. So I asked for a couple contacts and like reached out to them on my own. Did not want anyone reaching out on my behalf. And I just really learned about hockey. Like I knew there was a coach and a general manager. I did not know what went on behind the scenes. So a lot of my networking was also learning because they'd be like, well, what do you want to do in hockey? And I'm like, I don't know, what is there, right? Like
Right.
I would learn a little bit about what the analytics groups did, the PR groups, the salary cap, the team services. Like there's so much that like we only see a little on the surface. Even before like Twitter and TikTok, there was like not much visibility into some of these things behind the hood. And so I networked, and it wasn't just asking for a job. It was just to learn. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, you can't go into networking just expecting to get a job every time. It's not going to work. But you might meet someone and they enjoyed your time, they enjoyed your questions, and 2 weeks later, they might be talking to a colleague who's thinking of something and they could reference you or things like that. So you never kind of know where the webs of networking is going to go. For me, it was reaching out to Ray Shiro, who was the GM of the Devils at the time, who used to be the GM at the Pittsburgh Penguins when my dad was there. And so I asked him for a conversation. We didn't talk about a job at all. I just asked him what he did, other areas, and kind of learned. He sent me a couple emails to read, just was very helpful seeing if there was certain areas I was interested in. And then I want to say maybe 3 months later. So it wasn't immediate, right? And that's sometimes it's not. A job came up and he was like, hey, we're doing an entry level new position. He's the GM, so obviously he oversees it, but he's like, I'm not hiring it. I'm not going to be involved. Like, there's this other gentleman, Scott, like you have to interview with him. And, but he at least gave me the knowledge. I'd say a lot in sports, things aren't posted online. So it's kind of like networking and getting your foot in the door and just finding out about these jobs. And so that's how I was able to do that. And then obviously landed it, but it was very entry level in a new department they were. And it was one of those things, sometimes you just have to get your foot in the door. I was like, I don't care what I do. I just want to get in because then I can prove myself, I can grow, which I was fortunate enough to do.
Yeah, that's been a theme that's come up on the show a lot, actually, as I've had some other guests say. Sometimes it's about if you find the company you want to work for or the organization that you want to work for, and it's a role, but maybe not what you want to do. It's sometimes worth it to just say, hey, it's worth it to do the work in this other area just to have the opportunity.
Yeah, our director, I don't even know his title, VP of Hockey Ops, director of salary cap, he's like involved in all the trades, everything, like extremely bright. He started as an unpaid intern in PR like 10, 12 years ago and just like worked his way up and did so. Like there's so many success stories of like we have people on our team now in Hockey Ops that came from marketing. So it's like just get in. I'm not saying like don't be happy. Definitely prioritize your happiness and mental health. Like you want to enjoy what you do, but if it's not exactly everything you dreamed of, like just start to kind of figure out and learn because there are paths. And once you get in a good company and you meet good people and mentors, like they will be advocates for you.
100%. What were some of those moments in your career? You started in an entry-level scouting operations role. So what were some pivotal moments of learnings in your career that helped you move up or accelerate your growth, get you to where you are now?
I'd say obviously we're all still learning. It was difficult to start when, again, you're the only female and only one who's never played hockey. So for me, looking around the room and there's Hockey Hall of Famers, like people's jerseys are in the banners. And I'm like, okay, I come from public accounting. Like, what the hell am I doing here? For me, I had to gain confidence in myself. And that's something I talk about a lot. And so confidence for me came through comfortability. So the more I was in meetings, like I was just a sponge my first 2 years. Like people now would be like, there was never a time you didn't speak up. I'm like, no, there was, I swear. I wasn't always this chatty. My first 2 years, I was just quiet, listening, learning. Because I was like, I didn't want to say something out of turn. Like I'm looking at these idols. And so I gained confidence and kind of took that step from entry level. Like once I gained confidence in myself, I was comfortable about the topics. Like I was able to be in meetings. Like my two mentors, Ray Shiro, and then our GM now, Tom Fitzgerald, like they allowed me to be in meetings. Like, hey, you might not have something to input in this pro scouting trade discussion, but listen, learn. So then after 4 or 5 times of that, like I could ask an educated question. And so for me, gaining visibility allowed me to get comfortable, allowed me to get confident. And that's when then I could kind of bring things up, realize I did have an opinion, what my opinion was, and push a little bit. And that's where I'd say I took that step from entry level to like the path of executive, was being able to make decisions and informed decisions based on being knowledgeable about the topics and getting visibility from it, which I was fortunate to have because not everyone gets that.
Right. Not everyone gets that. And you were able to find your way into those rooms. And you mentioned you had a couple mentors in that story. How did you connect with those mentors? I mean, sometimes that's hard for people to find a mentor in the workplace. So I guess, how did you get into those rooms? How did you connect with those mentors in an authentic way to help you in your career?
Yeah, I think to start, I was 26 when I started here. I don't think I probably saw my strengths as others did. So I'm like, oh, even now just talking diminishing. I just worked at Deloitte, whereas other people would be like, okay, she's a master's in accounting, she's educated. Like I would always so they'd be like, I would see it as, oh my God, I've never played. I don't know. I've never played. And they would say, well, you've never played. Why don't you have a fresh perspective? That's awesome. So like what I would almost see as a negative, they may see as a positive. So sometimes our GM, when he was the GM, Ray Shiro, he would be like, just sit and listen. And then like, if you're not comfortable, let's talk separately. And like, what were your questions, or what did you see? Or what about process? Like Deloitte's a huge company. You're process driven, like you are business. This is a business. It's just on a sport. So like, let's talk through that. So I was very fortunate. Same with Tom Fitzgerald. They would also challenge me. They treated me like an equal. So like I would just get more comfortable. Both of those guys are just instrumental.
Yeah.
And I'd say like one of the biggest things was I wasn't comfortable around a locker room. Never played a locker room sport. So when you think figure skating, track, we don't really have locker rooms.
Right.
So for me, never mind a professional male locker room, it was getting comfortable around that. So them being like, hey, you just need to know where and when to go, right? Like I'm not going in the door by the showers. I'm probably going in the door by the coach's room. But I did gain access and was able to. I traveled full time my third year with the coaches doing some of the video work. So I was gaining experience in another area. But I think they knew I was uncomfortable and like needed to kind of get over it. Like you want to be an executive in sports, you need to be able to go into a locker room and talk to the coaches.
Yeah.
Little old Kate at 26 was not doing that. So I think they saw what I needed and they pushed me to do that indirectly in some ways. And both of those guys, I couldn't be where I am without them.
Kate, that's such an interesting perspective and story. Like I never thought of any of that. Like you have to get comfortable around a locker room and different. I mean, it's a business, but just in sport. So it's flipping the script on your experience and bringing that fresh perspective and not like minimizing your experience. I think that is so cool. And you obviously, those mentors were so instrumental. Like you just said, you wouldn't be where you are in your career now without them. And I think that is such a cool experience being in such a male dominated space. I think for a lot of women, it can maybe feel intimidating for sure, but you had two really great mentors who are males support you.
And I would say, I know not everyone has that. Like I was extremely fortunate even now, like I know my boss has my back. And I think that's why when you work so much as you do, like to have people that like I'd take a bullet for him, I think he'd do the same. And I think that's what makes strong teams. Like I'm comfortable in myself now, but like I would say they believed in me way before I believed in myself. And sometimes you need that, especially when you're kind of breaking the norm of what normal hires are. If they didn't give me that visibility, accessibility, I would not be where I was today. So it's like, it's changing the game. Like they're changing the game, which is what we need.
100%. It's like, this show, I interview women who are making a difference in their industry, but it also takes men in those spaces too to help hold open the door, or at least show you the ropes or get you comfortable in those spaces, teach you what they know. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, 100%.
How did you, or I guess, how would you maybe encourage others who are seeking mentorship, whether it's male or female? I don't think it matters at this point, but just wanting to find a mentor so that they can continue to excel in their career too. Do you have any advice?
I kind of see mentorship a little bit like dating in the sense that not everyone's a fit. Both ways, mentor, mentee. Sometimes it's trial and error. You need to find a mentor that fits the way you learn and who can help you the way you need, but it needs to be authentic. I feel like when it's forced, you can tell, and it should never be like I have to call this person. The mentor has to call the mentee or vice versa. Like it should be extremely authentic where it's like, oh, I'm just going to call this person. I have a question. I've had a couple. I think it's also important to have them in your field and out of your field. Different perspectives. So I have hockey ones for sure. I've talked about, I've had a couple. I've had a woman CEO, complete badass. Just to like learn like some of the things she deals with as like a woman at the top ranks, learning from her. I've had an NFL executive, and it all just became natural. Like it was like I met them at a conference, we talked, hey, why don't we get on a Zoom, just learn best practices that you do at the NFL or whatever. And it just kind of like morphed slowly. So I feel like the more authentic it could be, but don't be afraid to reach out. Not every mentor is going to be a right fit. So it's a little bit trial and error, and that's okay. But just kind of be your authentic self, because you want someone that you can just like casually call. You don't want it to feel like you have to be on all the time.
Yeah, that's great advice. I've actually never heard, hey, maybe someone outside of your industry can offer you different perspective too.
I feel like those have been huge for me. Like I was looking at a couple different things and I was like, you know what? This woman, Cindy, she would have great advice on this versus someone like my boss is here. Like, it's just, she comes more from the business world. And like, I think she'd be really helpful here. And I texted her, she called me 5 minutes later. And I'm like, you're a CEO. Like, they call me in like 3 weeks. I'm like, what? I'm like, I know you're so busy. Yeah, we're all the same. I'm like, I know you're so busy. No worries. Whenever you have a minute. And she's like, Kate, I'll call you now. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry to call you.
That's awesome.
But it's nice to have those like friends, right? She'll come to games with her sons. Like, so it's a mentorship that becomes a friendship.
Yes. And it's the authenticity. I think that's such a big point. It has to feel authentic. I love the dating metaphor or analogy. Like it's not always going to be a fit, but you just got to keep dating.
Keep going.
Don't take yourself out of the game.
Yes.
Kate, I kind of have a big question for you.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to know, as you continue to progress in your career, you're an assistant GM for an NHL team. I just want to know what you think some of the qualities that will define maybe the next generation of NHL leadership as maybe demographics change, game changes, and time goes on. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think like the world is changing everything. So for me, I'd say the biggest thing is adaptability. I'd say for a while, I could use sports specifically. Obviously, the game gets faster, different technologies, but it's all been very similar in the sense of how things happen now with the use of analytics, AI. You have to be adaptable. You have to like learn on the fly, make adjustments. You have to be open to different people's perspectives, opinions, different backgrounds. And I think people find value in that. I think like managers, managing partners, owners, they want people who aren't bobbleheads and just say yes. They want people to challenge them who have different perspectives. So I think that's important. And I think it's not a check the box thing. I think people actually value it, which is the most important part. So for me, as the world changes, sports change, leaders change, and the new leaders come up, it's going to be being adaptable. I think emotional intelligence is probably just as important as like EQ, IQ. Knowing how to treat people, like the world again is different. Like knowing how to create processes and procedures and anything. So for me, it's just being adaptable and not closed-minded. I guess that kind of goes one in one. I think we grew up, like at least my generation, with internet, right? And things like that. In 20 years, I have no idea what's going to be in the world. So like keeping up with certain things, having a learning mindset, I think is probably the biggest thing. The worst thing you can do is have a closed mind.
Agreed. 100% agreed. I love your perspective on that. I also want to know, a fun question to follow that up. Okay. It's just, you've been with the Devils for 8 years now?
Yeah. Wild.
That is why I know. I was like, I want to make sure I got that number right. So you've been there for 8 years, which is amazing. Over the course of your journey with the team, what's been your favorite moment?
Ooh.
Well, I'm putting you on the spot with that one.
Yeah, I have a lot. I'd say I have two. One, my niece and nephew are like my pride and joy. I love them. So having them come to a game and like being able to do the tunnel and all the players like fist bump, like just having you work so hard. So like having your friends and family being able to enjoy and like reap the benefits. Like we had an outdoor game, the Stadium Series game was unbelievable. We've been to Prague. Like there's been a lot of like cool experiences. I'd say for me personally is I was named AGM right before the draft in Montreal. And Tom Fitzgerald, I think with his son actually, came up with the idea. The GM always makes the pick for the most part. And he approached me an hour before and was like, I want you to make the pick. And I was like, no way. Public speaking in front of 20,000 people in a stadium. And he was like, this is important for like, you just got named, visibility, national television. We're all going to be standing behind you. So all the executives go up. There's 15 people. I want you to make the pick. I already talked to our owners about it and they're on board. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I do not want to do this. I have to do this because he is right. He pulled out the visibility card and it is important. I made it in French. Fun fact, I do speak fluent French. So I did it in French in Montreal, and my dad was there because he was there for some players. So it was just a really cool moment that like I worked really hard for 5-6 years, sacrificed a lot. And like, I didn't tell anyone because it was an hour before. So like my mom's watching the draft. She's like, what the bleep, bleep, bleep? Like my friends texting me, my grandpa's like, I'm so proud of you. So it was a really cool experience. And like, I heard from coaches who had daughters, other GMs who had nieces, like my daughter saw you on the stage. She wants to talk to you. So like, it was one of those moments that I was like, I don't want to do this. And I was like, you know what? If it gave one person a shred of hope that they could do this one day. So that was one of those things. Again, I would never advocate for myself. I never would have even thought of that. The fact that my GM's son came up with the idea with my GM to be like, why doesn't Kate make the pick? Like, that's how intentional they are. And like, I could sit here for 24 hours talking about them. But those are the little things that like, they might not realize how big of an impact that makes on the world and changing the game, but it does. So I would say that was probably one of my most surreal moments. Definitely needed to get dry cleaning after that. I was sweating so bad, so nervous. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, it was a cool experience. I don't want to redo it, but I'm glad I did it.
That is so badass. That's so amazing. And to do in French too, to pull that up, that's amazing. I'm so glad I asked this question. That's so cool. And the fact that you impacted way more than one person with doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool.
That's amazing. I'm a New Jersey Devils fan now.
Yes. Like, that was the whole point of this. I'm just recruiting out here.
I am. You can consider me converted for sure.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Okay, I like it.
So I've asked you a lot of questions on this topic, and I think that you've already given such amazing answers throughout this whole podcast about what changing the game means to you. But I'm going to ask it just to close us up here today. What does changing the game mean to you in your career or your personal life?
Yeah, I think like such a good question. I don't want to screw up the answer.
You couldn't. You've already given like everything. I feel like you've already answered it, but I'm like, we got to close with the changing.
Yeah, changing the game. For me, all of us have to change the game. One person can't do it alone. Changing the game is changing the landscape. It's changing everything. How you hire, who you hire, how you treat people. Like, just changing the game is bettering the game. And that can go forever, as depth as you want. I think different perspectives, as we talked about, is vital to changing the game. Being open-minded. There's a quote that like, when you're at the top of your game, change it, right? Because other people are going to catch on. So like, you should always be changing how you're thinking. You should never be content with being status quo. As I said before, like, and our coach Sheldon Keefe says it a lot, like, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that to me is changing the game. Like, always be looking to be the best and better in the world, in the community, in the sport, in the business, as a person, like whatever you can be. So that to me is my long-winded answer that I'm not sure it makes any sense, but that's what I got.
Kate, it makes a ton of sense. It makes perfect sense. And I'm so grateful for all of your wisdom here today. This was a wonderful conversation. I'm so excited for our audience.
I'm going to get like 50,000 unfollowed people on Devils. They're like, we're not fans anymore.
There's no way after your stories, you're going to get more follows. So on that note, where can our listeners connect with you?
Yes. LinkedIn. It takes me a while. So don't be discouraged. I have social, but I usually keep that to myself. It's just private. So you can find me, but that's for me, my dog, and my friends.
Yeah. So maybe they just go follow the Devils pages then.
Yes,
connect with you through the sport.
Yeah. I'd say, follow the Devils. I think we're going to be a great team this year. Proud of what our team's been able to do under our GM, Tom Fitzgerald. Like, I'm excited for this year. So all the Devils stuff, it's going to be a good team. We're going to be fun to watch. So tune in.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Kate. Really appreciate it. This was wonderful. Thank you everyone for listening. And
I just want to say thank you too. I think what you're doing, like showing the visibilities, you've had a lot of great people on your podcast, and what you're doing and the mission is awesome. So like, kudos to you changing the game as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm right there with you, Kate. If it impacts one person positively who's listening, it's all worth it for me. So I'm
100%.
with you there. Thank you so much.